Thank you, everybody. Excellencies, colleagues, as the Director General mentioned in her introductory speech, we're endorsing tools today to monitoring progress. And the changes to our global education cooperation mechanism will be judged a success if they prompt us to address our challenges with a sense of purpose, share responsibility, and taking joint action. To do that, we need a measure of what is progress, from which we can learn, and what is lack of progress, which we will need to act upon. A linchpin of the reform of the global education cooperation mechanism is therefore the setting of national benchmarks. By that we mean, where do we want our country education systems to be, taking into account the national context, the starting point, and the feasible rate of progress. If we can go to the next slide. In 2014, the United Nations Secretary General committed all of us to embrace a culture of shared responsibility by benchmarking for progress. In the same report, the UN Secretary General defined the 4 levels of monitoring and the role of each of those levels for monitoring progress in a completely country-driven process. In 2015, we planted this seed in the Education 2030 Framework for Action. In this moment, all countries committed that they could determine where they plan to be in a 5 years' time, in a 10 years' time, taking into account their national context. However, we have not yet fulfilled that commitment. Last October, at the last Global Education meeting, we declared that we would accelerate this process and we would propose relevant and realistic benchmarks of key SDG indicators to be subsequently monitored. And in fact, allow me to share that we have been slowly moving into this direction. In 2019, the Technical Cooperation Group for Education 2030 Indicators is a technical intergovernmental body that is in charge and in making the decision of the SDG 4 monitoring framework, where all regions are represented and all countries are having their voice heard, decided to focus on 7 indicators that were relevant to all contexts. In October 2020, after the Global Education meeting, the Technical Cooperation Group, in their responsibility, continuing with this process, endorsed a technical and political process that to move forward and that we have been since then working and implementing. And allow me to actually to focus on 2021. In 2021, we have two key milestones. Now, today, we're reaching one of them. Following an extensive process of consultation with regional organizations, with member states, we're pleased to share that regional organizations in Central America and the Caribbean, in Europe, in Africa, in Asia, in Southeast Asia and the Pacific are proposing minimum regional benchmark values for a key selected SDG 4 indicators. November 2021 represents the second milestone in this 2021 year. The next stop, over the next 2 or 3 months, the time has come for member states to fulfill the neglected commitment and determine their contribution towards the achievement of SDG 4. By sharing your ambition, by showing how far you are prepared to go to achieve SDG 4, you will help set out our new global cooperation mechanism on the right track. And just a brief stop on the 7 benchmark indicators. These 7 benchmark indicators refer to policy areas that are relevant for all countries and for which there is enough, even if incomplete, data to monitor whether benchmarks are being achieved. 3 indicators refer to basic education: how many children are out of school, how many children are competing each level of education, how many children are achieving a minimum proficiency level in reading and mathematics. 1 indicator refers to pre-primary education: how many children are enrolled the year before they are supposed to start primary school. Another indicator refers to trained teachers. 2 indicators mentioned in the framework for actions refer to public expenditure in education as a percentage of gross domestic product and as a percentage of the total expenditure. And finally, 1 indicator captures equity. For instance, the gap in the gender gap in completion in secondary education.